Good afternoon. You're watching the English newscast on Future Television. I'm Yumna Naufal. These are today's top stories. Hezbollah confirms 3 of its fighters have been killed in this week's fierce clashes in the Syrian Kalamoun region on Lebanon's eastern border. Warplanes from a Saudi-led coalition struck Yemeni rebels in their northern stronghold. Riyadh vows harsh punishment for deadly cross-border bombardments. And British Prime Minister David Cameron's Conservative Party looks set to continue in power after it defies expectations and wins the 323 seats needed to command a parliamentary majority. Hezbollah confirmed 3 of its fighters have been killed in this week's fierce clashes in the Syrian Kalamoun region on Lebanon's eastern border. In a statement, the party described as lies media reports that claim dozens of its fighters were killed battling jihadists. Fierce fighting erupted after Nusra-led fighters launched surprise attacks on Hezbollah and Syrian army posts along the border region with Lebanon. On Tuesday, Hezbollah ambushed a Nusra convoy in the Kalamoun area, killing around 15, according to a Lebanese security source. Fighting continued on Wednesday and Thursday, with Hezbollah and the Syrian army recapturing 5 strategic kills in eastern Kalamoun and taking control of the Syrian towns of Asad al-Ward and Najouba. The Army of Conquest's Kalamoun branch, a coalition of Islamist militants fighting in the area, claimed on Twitter that clashes in Asad al-Ward killed over 60 Hezbollah fighters and wounded dozens of others. A declaration of intent between Christian rivals, the Lebanese forces and the Free Patriotic Movement, has been finalized, according to FPM lawmaker Ibrahim Kanaan. He said the declaration of intent with the Lebanese forces has concluded and has gone into effect. He was speaking to the Voice of Lebanon radio, and he said coordination is ongoing between the two sides on several issues, including the presidential election, but added that this is being done away from media. Negotiations for a meeting between the FPM leader Michel Aoun and the LF head Samir Jaja has been in the works for months, with Kanaan, who heads Aoun's parliamentary bloc, and Milhem Riyashi, the head of LF's media and communications section. Here's an inspirational story today. A man who lost both legs in the Syrian war has dedicated his life to helping other refugees. Double amputee Ahmed Shad fled to Lebanon, where he now volunteers with the UNHCR. Ahmed Shad has been learning to live with a disability since July of 2013, when he lost both legs. He was wounded in Zabadani in western Syria. He was rushing to his parents' house after hearing bombing in the neighborhood, but on his way another shell landed. Shad and his wife have now sought refuge in Lebanon. He is determined that his disability will not hold him back. He became a refugee outreach volunteer with the UNHCR. Every day he gets on his customized motorcycle, visits Syrian families, and his job is to check on their well-being and let them know about UNHCR programs which could help the families. Around 12 million now Syrian refugees have fled to Lebanon, stretching the country's already scarce sources. And Shahad is serving as an inspiration to the people he meets. U.S. airstrike in Yemen last month killed the senior al-Qaeda official who appeared in a video claiming the deadly January attack on French magazine Charlie Hebdo. Nasser bin Ali al-Ansi, who has killed in the April strike along with his eldest son in the port city of Mukalla, also appeared in the al-Qaeda videos claiming the holding and death of U.S. hostage Luke Somers. The announcement of his death comes in a video posted on Twitter by al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, which Washington considers the international terror network's deadliest branch. The air raid appears to have been carried out overnight, when witnesses in Mukalla said apparent U.S. drone strikes on a vehicle parked near the presidential palace killed 6 suspected al-Qaeda militants. And on the ground, warplanes from the Saudi-led coalition struck Yemeni rebels in their northern stronghold as Riyadh is vowing harsh punishment for deadly cross-border bombardments hours after proposing a humanitarian ceasefire. The raids targeted control centers, a communication complex, and a landmine factory, as well as other rebel positions across Yemen's northern Saada province, which borders Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, which has led 6 weeks now of airstrikes on Yemen in support of exiled President Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi, warned that Iran-backed Shia Houthi rebels had crossed a red line by shelling populated border areas in the kingdom. Riyadh has repeatedly accused Iran of providing arms and funding the Houthis, and it's charging Tehran that is denying it again and again, with a foreign ministry spokesman dismissing efforts to put the blame on others. Witnesses in Saada said coalition jets dropped leaflets urging residents to leave the province. Coming up next, the Pakistani Taliban claims responsibility for downing a military helicopter, killing 6, including the Norwegian and Philippine envoys. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Future Television, the 4:20 o'clock news. The Pakistani Taliban is claiming responsibility for downing a military helicopter, killing 6 people, including the Norwegian and Philippine envoys. And Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif was their target. The helicopter was shot down by an anti-aircraft missile, killing pilots and many foreign ambassadors. An Urdu language statement emailed by their main spokesman, Muhammad Khorasani, said a special group of Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan had prepared a special plan to target Nawaz Sharif during his visit, but he survived because he was traveling in another helicopter. It was not immediately possible to verify the claim, but the Gilgit-Baltistan region in Pakistan's north, where the chopper came down, is not known as a stronghold of the militant organization. Officials have not yet commented on the Taliban claim, but the Ministry of Defense issued a statement saying it was investigating what caused the crash. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is gathering with French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius in Paris to participate in a ceremony to mark the 70th anniversary of the Allied victory over Nazi Germany. Kerry laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier under the Arc of Triomphe on the French capital's famous Champs-Élysées. And the Victory of Europe Day is a national holiday in France, celebrating the day Allied forces accepted the unconditional surrender of Nazi Germany, marking the end of World War II in Europe. The U.S. Secretary of State is also due to hold talks with foreign ministers of the Gulf Cooperation Council in Paris later on Friday, with the nuclear deal with Iran expected to be high on the agenda. UK Labour leader Ed Miliband has announced his resignation from the position after his party failed to win government and lost seats in Britain's general election. Prime Minister David Cameron says he will go on working hard after his Conservative Party defied expectations and won thin majority. Linda Tamim reports.
British Prime Minister David Cameron has returned to Downing Street, with the Tories poised to defy polls and win the general election. Cameron had just come out of a meeting with Queen Elizabeth to inform her he has enough support to form a government. The Conservatives made gains in England and Wales and are forecast by the BBC to secure 331 seats in the Commons, giving them a slender majority. Labour leader Ed Miliband has announced his resignation, saying his party must rebuild with a new leader.
Britain needs a Labour Party that can rebuild after this defeat, so we can have a government that stands up for working people again. And now it's time for someone else to take forward the leadership of this party. So I'm tendering my resignation, taking effect after this afternoon's commemoration of VE Day at the Cenotaph. I want to do so straight away, because the party needs to have an open and honest debate about the right way forward, without constraint.
Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg was one of the few of his Liberal Democrats to hold on to a parliamentary seat in the UK election. But with his party set to be reduced from 57 to 8 MPs, Clegg already said he will quit.
It is clear that in constituency after constituency north of the border, the beguiling appeal of Scottish nationalism has swept all before it. And south of the border, a fear about what that means for the United Kingdom has strengthened English conservatism too. This now brings our country to a very perilous point in our history, where grievance and fear combine to drive our different communities apart. I hope that our leaders across the United Kingdom realise the disastrous consequences for our way of life and the integrity of the United Kingdom if they continue to appeal to grievance rather than generosity and fear rather than hope. It's no exaggeration to say that in the absence of strong and statesmanlike leadership, Britain's place in Europe and the world, and the continued existence of our United Kingdom itself, is now in grave jeopardy. And the cruelest irony of all is that it is exactly at this time that British liberalism, that fine, noble tradition that believes that we are stronger together and weaker apart, is more needed than ever before. Fear and grievance have won. Liberalism has lost. But it is more precious than ever, and we must keep fighting for it.
Well, good. Right, good morning, everybody. On this lovely day.
The leader of Britain's anti-EU United Kingdom Independence Party, known as UKIP, also stepped down as he failed to win a seat in the country's parliament, raising questions about the future of his leadership of the party. UKIP leader Nigel Farage, who came second in the seat of South Thanet in southeastern England, has lost by nearly 2,800 votes to the Conservatives. David Cameron is back in Downing Street, but at what price? Has the Conservative Prime Minister sacrificed the Union for another 5 years of power? These are the questions many people are asking today after a party which fought for independence for 80 years swept to victory in Scotland. Reports suggest the surprise success of the Conservative Party and the near wipeout of Labour in Scotland could have ramifications for the country as a whole and its future in the European Union. Now, with Conservatives gaining even more power in the UK, enters the possibility of a Brexit. Even though Britain does not use the euro, it would be a much bigger wrecking ball. Prime Minister Cameron has promised the country a referendum in 2017 on whether to stay in the EU or to exit out of it.
Minister David Cameron's Conservatives are set to govern Britain for another 5 years after the unexpectedly strong showing. But many have yet to grapple with renewed calls for Scottish independence after a nationalist surge. Cameron said he hoped to form a government in the coming days after his party enjoyed what he described a very strong night.
It is too early to say exactly what sort of result there will be at the end of this night and the end of this election campaign. But to me, this election campaign was always about the difficult decisions we had to take over the last 5 years, the foundation of a stronger economy that we built for our country, and the chance now to build on that foundation and to say to people that if you want a job, if you want that apprenticeship, if you want a home that you can own of your own, if you want security and dignity in retirement, we are on your side and want to deliver for you, to decide Britain's future in Europe. We published a manifesto that was squarely for working people. In short, I want my party, and I hope a government I would like to lead, to reclaim a mantle that we should never have lost, the mantle of one nation, one United Kingdom. That is how I will govern if I'm fortunate enough to form a government in the coming days.
This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our top stories. Hezbollah confirms 3 of its fighters have been killed in this week's fierce clashes in the Syrian Kalamoun region on Lebanon's eastern border. Warplanes from the Saudi-led coalition strike Yemeni rebels in their stronghold as Riyadh vows harsh punishment for deadly cross-border bombardments. And British Prime Minister David Cameron's Conservative Party looks set to continue in power. It defies expectations and wins 323 seats needed to command a parliamentary majority. Those are your Friday headlines live on Future Television. I'm Yumanofa signing off. Catch us again at 4:20 for all the latest. Take care.